Okay, bring the meeting to order. Everybody rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Sherry Gansborough, recording.
Tom Snowden, board member.
A little louder next time, Sharon, just for the computer. You're a little soft there. All right, it does appear that Jason.
Introduce yourself.
We will.
Oh, they did.
We will. I get there.
Oh.
I was going to say that Jason is not here. He
Oh,
told me
okay.
that he's on vacation, so we will have one absence this evening. I am Cody Reynolds. I'm the Winfield Township trustee.
Barb Graham, office manager.
Becky Dykes, assistant clerk.
Our guest,
Kevin Harima, Fire Chief.
Jeremy Maskey, Vice President of the Fire Board.
Jeremy, can you speak your last name for me?
Maske.
Appreciate it. All right, so even with one absence, we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and continue to conduct business as we normally would. So,
business.
yes, we'll go to old business. All right, so first thing, and these are both kind of connected. Thanks to Sherry on this one. She's the one who pointed it out to me. There was a technical issue with our last meeting when we live streamed and recorded it. It did live stream it and it did record it, but for whatever reason, it added a new preference in there where it could be set to private. So even though all of our other meetings were set to public, that one was set to private. I fixed that, so it's available now on the website. It is there for the public notice. I did go in the actual video itself and added a note explaining that there was a technological issue that had been recorded on 5/1, which I believe was the date of the meeting, but wasn't because the technical issue wasn't made available to the public until today, 8/3. So that having been said, the first item in the packet is a proposed motion. And really what this does, and I'll read it out loud. I did write this one just because I felt like it was a little more involved. But basically what this is we're just attesting to the fact that there was a technological issue, and under state law, as you know, we have to record these and make these available. However, state law also says that if there is a technological issue, that doesn't prevent you from having the meeting. It doesn't validate the meeting. You just simply have to recognize that there was a technological issue, make it part of the record, and then where possible, make the recording or whatever else you have of that meeting available. We've obviously remedied the situation already, so this is just making it part of the record that we in fact had a technological issue. So the proposed motion would read as such. I make a motion to attest to the fact that while the Winfield Township Board, the Winfield Township Trustee, and Township staff all made every effort to ensure the live streaming and online recording of the regular Township Board meeting held on May 1st, 2026, a technical issue with YouTube prevented the live stream and video from being made available to the public during and immediately after the occurrence of the meeting. However, once the issue was discovered, the issue was remedied and made available to the public at approximately 4:25 Central Time today, Monday, August 3rd, 2026. This motion is intended to disclose this issue while also codifying its remedy as part of the official record of this Township Board. Any questions from the board?
No.
All right, I'll hand it back to both of you then.
Well, I make a motion that we go ahead and vote on this and make it protocol.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One absent. Motion passes.
Perfect. So then related to that, because the video was not available to Sherry, we were unable to produce the meeting minutes for this meeting, or by this meeting, for that meeting, by this meeting rather. So the next thing I would ask you to do, there's not anything in here for proposed motions for the next section, but I'm just going to ask the board to table the consideration of the meeting minutes. So
I'll make a motion to table May 1st minutes until next board meeting.
I second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes with one absent.
That is all I have under old business, sir.
Move on to new business.
Okay, so I promise my goal is to keep this meeting short. While there is a lot of information to receive, there's really only 2 actions that need to be taken in the whole meeting, so we can, deal with different parts of these as we go through it. We of course can take additional time to address any of these in our next meeting when we have a full board as well. So the first item is considering a motion to change the 2027 budget hearing and budget adoption meeting dates. So as you know, one of the first acts we do every year is to pass our meeting calendar. And in this year's, unlike years past, I just slotted in when the budget hearing and when the adoption hearing would be based off of prior year's experience. But what has really kind of come up is that as I was going through the budget process this year, some of the tools I rely on, which we'll see here in a second, like the circuit breaker report and others, the state has come out and said that because of the changes from not this year, but last year, SEA 1, that changed all the property tax bills, there are in a lot of these years projected reports than they were in years prior. One of the things that they were changing is we're reevaluating everybody's AB. And for budgetary purposes, in the past, we've always had a pretty hard and firm number going into budget season. And as you all recall, I generally like to give the board what I kind of call a first reading or a preview before we have the public hearing meeting, because it gives us time to change something if the board feels so inclined, or to solicit any additional input before that budget hearing. But when they came out and they sent us the documents and basically said that you're going to have to wait until the final ABs are attested to by the county to the state in August. I mean, they literally were just by law having to be delivered to them just a couple days ago. I haven't received a notice yet stating those figures are actually yet available. So being that we don't have some of the resources we usually have by this time, that's why I'm asking to move it. And really all I'm doing, we're not going to change dates, we're just moving it down one set of meetings. So in years past, the budget hearing has always been in August, and then the budget adoption would be in September. So all we're going to do is move it to where our budget hearing would be in September and the budget adoption would be in October. And I know there's deadlines we have to pay attention to. I looked them up. The deadline for the public hearing isn't until October 24th, and the deadline for the adoption meeting isn't until November 3rd. So we have plenty of time. And I just think it's due diligence to slow that up this year since we're seeing so many changes. So the other thing that this proposed motion would do is kind of the fourth paragraph there that starts with additionally. Whoever would make the motion, if one of the members feels so inclined, they would move to set the public hearing for the capital improvement plan for Monday, August 24th, 2026. So this would be our next regular meeting. This has to be done by September 30th. You both will recall we passed our first CIP last year. It was a new requirement we had to do. That was that big Excel sheet that was like, oh, these are all the things we plan to do over the next 4 or 6 years because we have the budget surplus, if you will. And so this is how we account for that. We've done some preliminary data crunching, and we will have to submit this year just based on how much money we have in our bank account right now. Not that that'll be an issue, but what I am still checking is last year we were required to issue a public notice, and we put it in the newspaper. I was looking this year, and there does not appear to be any such requirement. So I sent an email today to the Department of Local Government Finance and SBOA to clarify that, because I don't want to do something wrong. But given everything that I've been able to find, I feel pretty sure we won't have to do that. But this would just be a formality of saying, we've already set these other two, we might as well set this one. So that's why you see here the proposed motion. As I've already said, we changed the 2077 budget hearing and the 2027 budget adoption meeting dates from August 24th, 2026 and September 28th, 2026, respectively, to September 28th, 26 and October 26th, 26. So literally, like I said, it just moves them 1 month back. So as the next line says, therefore, the 27 budget hearing will be held on Monday, September 28th, 2026 at 6:30, and the budget adoption meeting will be held on October 26th, 2026. The location remains the same as it states there. Then that moves into that portion where we set the date for the CIP hearing, August 24th. And then last, I think this is just extra, but I included it in there to be thorough. It just says that all 3 of these meetings, as well as prior meetings from this last year, can be viewed live or as a recording at the following link, and that's just the YouTube page. So, probably more information here than is required, but I felt like because we're changing a resolution, I wanted to be as thorough as possible. Unless you have any questions, I will defer back to the board.
All right. I make a motion that we move the budget hearing meeting to September 28th and the budget adoption meeting to October 26th. And these will be the meetings for the 2027 budget.
I accept that motion. Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Changing the adoption meeting, budget meetings, passed with 1 absent. And then the other part of the CIP.
Okay. Excellent. Next. And you can see here, I gave it to you as information was the budget schedule. So really all we did is, you can tell here, is we literally just moved them down 1.
Yeah.
It's the next page. And as you can see, you guys are already signed. Okay. Next one, this is some, and if you want more information about this, it's the colorful sheet. It looks like this. If you want any more information about this, we can of course talk about this individually one-on-one after at a later date, or as a group in our next meeting. So I think everybody, at least up on the dais, and Kevin, Jeremy, you may not be, sir, but I think most people in the room are familiar with the circuit breaker report. What this does is it analyzes your current budget and it actually sets it up against the state property tax revenue algorithm. So it takes into account not only levy rates for each individual unit in each jurisdiction, but it also takes into account that cumulative rate, at which point once you cross it, that's when you incur the circuit breaker loss. In other words, the way to think about it is we can tax to a certain point. Once that taxing district has achieved its, because we have the state property tax caps, the 1%, 2%, and 3% cap rates for each of those parcels, anything above that is considered circuit breaker loss. So basically what this report does is it tells you this is how much money you should be getting, but in reality, this is how much you're losing. So this is what you're really getting. So what I mean here, the first 2 sheets, starting at the bottom of what is listed here is page 6, and then going out to the very top of page 7 is the circuit breaker report for Winfield Township. You can see our certified levy was $969,402, but our post-circuit breaker levy is about $92,000 less. It's $892,342.47. Your most significant losses are coming from the Fire Fund 1111, as well as that Nakim Fire Fund, which is about 12 grand. The rainy day is taking an almost $17,000 loss. Township Assistance is losing 5, and Parks and Rec is losing just under 4. What's notable here is that's about 10% of our budget gone through circuit breaker loss. And the reason for this is twofold. Number one, this is the impact of the SEA 1, the property tax bill that went into place, because folks are getting more off of their property taxes, so that overall net assessed value will drop, or has dropped rather. And then secondly, and the bigger thing here is some of the other taxing units have gotten tax increases in the last year, and when that total gets pushed up, we all lose more. And so what it does is when there's circuit breaker loss, every unit in that jurisdiction that shares that tax parcel as part of its base, we share the loss. And so because, for instance, the Crown Point School referendum went through and passed and theirs went up, town of Winfield budget tax revenue went up, and although we went up within our set allowance, we didn't go above. Because of that, everybody's circuit breaker loss went up. Again, really the driving factor here, and I'm not laying blame at any of our neighboring units, but the Crown Point School District one kind of got us a little bit, which is fine. I'm a big supporter of our schools, but I do think it's funny that they took issue with our fire territory because it was going to result in them losing money through the circuit breaker, and they returned the favor, even though we didn't in the end do that. So important part here to know is we're going to have about $90,000 less than what we should have. So what that also means is any of those underages basically would come out of our saved cash in each of those funds. So in other words, we can still spend the total we budgeted for. It just means we're not going to be receiving as much as we thought. So if we spend to that total, we'll be spending down our savings. We're not going to be spending the money because there wouldn't be enough. Does that make sense? Similarly, if you turn past the first 2 pages of that packet, back in June, we got our spring tax settlement. So that final number you see there, the post-circuit breaker levy number on the first 2 pages for each of those funds, that's the total amount we'll receive in the year. What they do is, as I think most people in the room know, is they break our general property tax distributions down into 2 chunks. You get a spring settlement and a fall or December settlement. Spring settlement, which is the one we got, is usually about 60% of your total. And in fact, we did the math, it's slightly over. I think we got about 62% of our total or thereabout. But that page, what would really be the 3rd page in that packet, is the main tranche of our funding. As you can see there, we got a disbursement of $545,183 total, spread across all our funds in the column there above it, as you see. So again, that's base property tax. If you turn the page again, this is the FIT, financial institution tax. These are taxes paid by having basically banks and other financial institutions in your taxing districts. So we did get a relatively small amount, about just under $500. What's new here is that originally, and by originally I mean in every year prior to this one, the way we split up our general fund levy, which is how we fund our general fund, our township assistance, rainy day, and parks and rec. However we parceled that out was how they split up the FIT funding. Now we don't have to do that. Now the trustee is empowered to just say, I want all of the money to go here, or they can continue to split it up. So because township assistance is our weakest funded fund, and it's obviously incredibly important to the everyday operations of the township, I made the executive decision to just put all $470 into township assistance. So you see there. And then the last one is CVET, which stands for Commercial Vehicle Excise Tax. I admittedly don't know too much about this one, and it's because it's a type we don't receive any revenue from it. We never have. The town of Winfield also does not receive any of this. So I do need to look into this a little bit more just to understand what it is better, to better able to answer any questions. But I included it there so that you could see truthfully all the basic tax revenue that's going in, even if it's one we're not getting. So if you look at it, you'll see Winfield Township, and it's just zeros across the board. Any questions about the circuit breaker report, the impact of SCA 1, or the distribution of the property taxes? Barb, anything you want to add to that one? Numbers. Becky, anything you want to add there either? Other than one other thing, I know they gave you a grand total here of how much you can expect. You never actually received that. Becky and I read numbers going back like 10 years, and none of them ever match. So it is an estimate, even though the state gives you this as a planning tool. But like I said, for this year in particular, they said they expect more incongruences than before. So they basically said, wait, watch for a later publication. Okay, that finishes the circuit breaker and property tax distribution. Next, so the next 2 pieces are really the 2 work moments of the meeting. The first one says, consider a proposal from Alert Alarm for the replacement of the smoke and emergency detection system. So as you know, this is something we've kind of gone back and forth on for a while now. We actually had a different proposal from Alert Alarm earlier this year that was a significantly smaller cost amount. The reason you're seeing this version of it, which is about $5,000 more than what the last one would have been, is because there was a miscommunication between myself, the fire chief, and the representative from Alert Alarm. As it stands right now, there are actually at least 2 different smoke/emergency detection systems going on in the building. There is the one that is managed through Alert Alarm, which I mistakenly was under the assumption was just the fire department upstairs, the bay, and then what we had added about a year, 2 years ago was my office, the main lobby here. We added those smokeless detectors. The reason I was mistaken is because there are additional smokes, you can see some of them in this room, that are actually through the town of Winfield, through a secondary system. So my belief was mistaken because I thought the town of Winfield one was on both sides and ours was just fire station and the area that we inhabit. When in reality, the fire station once does actually run systems building wide. So they had to come back and give me a new evaluation to better understand what the cost implication would be to redo the whole system for the whole building. Because again, and that is on my issue, I didn't understand that there are still two systems, but they're much more redundant than I thought they were. So what this would do then is it would of course replace the fire panel as you see upstairs, which was kind of the initial point of all of this because it stopped communicating with alert alarm some time ago now. They'll have to add a new cellular communicator, batteries for all of the wireless smokes, the update the pull stations, update all of the smoke, the system smoke detectors, and the horn strobes as well. So as you can see listed there, all the different components, the expected cost is $8,195. Also includes $6 per month for the monitoring, which we pay quarterly anyway. Now, a couple things. I know that's somewhat of a large amount. The good news is it doesn't incur any of the contracting thresholds where you have to have more than one quote and do a bid selection process. None of that even starts until you get to the 50,000 mark, so we're fine. I've talked to the fire chief when we originally did that fix for the wireless smoke stun here about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. We switched companies. It was a different company who was doing it. Now it's Alert Alarm. Alert Alarm is much more cost efficient than the old company, and they are much, much, much more responsive when we have issues and when we have questions and when we even have like emergency situations here. So I feel very confident that this quote here is reflective of the market value and is the wisest course for the township. I will pause and ask the chief if there's anything he wants to add before we turn it back over to the board for consideration.
So when we walked through last week when he came back before he presented this, I believe, which is why the other reason it went up is because he's actually adding pull stations and strobes and horns in throughout the whole building by the doors.
Okay.
So you should have one by your front door. There should be one here, there, I believe back there. I don't know if he missed this door.
Okay.
So you might have to ask him about that because there should be one by each door. Yeah.
So
there may be one more to add.
6 then actually, because the one on that side too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But right now there are no pull stations in the entire building. And he also went back and looked at the smoke detectors, and these are the two that are on the back side here are the ones that are connected when the upstairs was done back in 98, 99. So they're still original from 98, 99. Now, he said that they're still blinking, so they probably do work, which I believe 2 or 3 years ago, they all got tested and they did. But he did suggest if you're going to do a new panel, put the other stuff in, just update them all, and then you should be good, hopefully, for another 15 to 20 years. So, and this is the way he explained it, which is listed. What is upstairs now is a panel from 98, 99. And this is more of a hybrid security and fire panel, where that was originally more of like a security panel more than a fire panel. So it's upgrading everything to essentially today's standard, along with making sure all the offices that have been built out are actually covered, because right now they're not.
And truthfully, the biggest concern here is the fact that we have people who, are staying here overnight, right? We have the duty crew, and so they're here 24/7. They might be sleeping in between calls or shifts, all sorts of things, right? So we absolutely want to make sure that everybody in the building is safe. And we're operating, as the chief said, to industry standards. Okay. Okay, turn it over to you, sir.
Make a motion to accept the fee.
Well, I think Sherry has to, in second
Oh, yeah.
sense, right?
Oh, I have
Just-
to?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, well, I make a motion that we pay Alarm Incorporated, the installation and labor for upgrading our fire alarm system. The total is $8,195.
I'll second that motion. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes with one absent.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate that. What I'm gonna do is I will, as the chief said, I will reach out to Bob and just make sure if there's any adjustment needed, because we do have these 2 extra back doors instead of 4, it will go up to 6. Do I have your permission to proceed even if the price does change a little bit because of that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
will.
I would make a motion.
Oh, I make a motion that Cody has permission from the board to pay any additional fees incurred for the installation of the upgrade of the fire alarm system to alert alarm.
And I'll second that. Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. One absent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go ahead and sign this thing. Thank you, ma'am. Next, okay, so maybe 2 weeks ago now, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. We're gonna talk about Deer Creek Cemetery. We have the company and they do a good job of keeping the inside of the fenced-in portion of the cemetery clean, proper, etc. What they haven't done, and I'll accept ownership of this because I should have paid closer attention here, is they haven't been what I would call weed whacking or trimming any of the trees that are along the tree line that's created by the fence, and then like that front stoop area of it. So there's the fence, the stoop where the stairs are, and then the road. They've kept the stairs clear, but that frontage area is kind of wild. So I asked, and then about 2 weeks ago, where I was going with this is the property owner who owns the property directly west of it, so kind of behind the cemetery. Their driveway kind of there off Grand Boulevard wraps around it. They mow their yard behind there, and they just simply came in and asked if we could do anything about the trees and the weeds that have started to grow up there on the backside of the fence. So I reached out to Tim at J&T Landscaping. They went out and looked at it, and they provided this quote. I double checked with Tim today that within this quote, it includes not only making everything within the cemetery, prim proper in terms of going through trimming trees, bushes, etc., in addition to all of what they already do with regular mowing, and then removing a lot of the foliage there on that front stoop that are on both sides of the steps, and then trimming those trees along the back side of it so that the neighbors can better mow their property. So the quote that came back was what's in front of you, $1,975. This would just be a one-time thing. I did check the budget. We budgeted $5,000 for the year. We have spent right about $800. Last year, all told, we spent just shy of $1,700. So at this point, we've got $4,200 in the budget anyway. And judging off of prior years, we wouldn't spend it all. So I would recommend that we move forward with this proposal. But I will defer, of course, to the board. So I'll hand it off to you unless you have any other questions.
How would we keep up with it?
So that's a good question. So what we would do for this year, obviously this would take care of it for now. What I would likely ask them to do then is we would probably do one more round of this. I expect it wouldn't be as expensive in the fall, like right before they do their last, or right as they do their last mow, kind of keep it clean. And then going forward, so thinking now 27, we would probably ask for a slightly altered proposal that would say, still give us the mowing costs for the different sections, but then say maybe quarterly or 3 times a year, the trimming and add the additional.
It's a little staff.
Exactly, right,
going, you know.
exactly. And then truthfully too, my other goal is that they just do the trimming and they'll do that, but my other thought is I think everybody in the room knows, the town also has the big sprayer that they use for the sides of the road to control weed growth. And so once this gets done, I'd already previously talked to Nick at the town about, reaching out to see if they could front area, because there's so much in there on that front fence line. There's a grapevine, there's sunflowers, there's like 3 other types of planted things in there, and then there's the weeds, right? And rather than trying to figure out what's what and do all of that, I would rather have them spray it with the weed killer. And then I'm hoping that gives us the opportunity to then next year, we might have to have them spray it twice, once this year, once at the beginning of the season next year. But that would give us the opportunity to have enough of the weeds and everything killed and cut down that we could actually go ahead and replace that fence, because the fence is not in great shape either. It's probably, I don't want to call it an original fence, but I'm sure it's been there since the 60s.
Or something nice.
Exactly. So that's the goal. That's a great question, Barb. But yeah, so this would be the short-term answer, and then the longer-term answer would be that next year's proposals, we would ask them to include some type of regular, whether it's quarterly or whatever, trimming maintenance and such. Any other questions, Barb or Becky, or any other comments, rather? Okay.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we pay J&T Landscaping for clearing the brush and trimming the trees back at Deer Creek Cemetery. A total of $1,975.
I'll second that motion. Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes with 1 absent.
Thank you. All right. We're doing okay, Kevin. Not great. We're okay. This next part will go pretty fast. So this is just an attempt to get everybody caught up. As you know, about a year ago, we started presenting to you in the trustees report section, the food pantry usage, township assistance usage from the last full month. And so given that this meeting should have been held at the very end of July, July isn't here, but what we do have is April, May, and June. July will be presented at the August meeting as it typically would. So we'll be back on regular cadence. But starting in what would have been shared at the May 18th meeting, which is really the April data, at that point, for township assistance, we had a total number of initial applications of 19. 6 were new that month. So 19 on the year, 6 new that month. Total number of continuing applications, there was 4 on the year, and all 4 came in that month. Total approved would be 2. One of those was new, so those are approved outright. Total partially approved, 17 on the year, 6 of those were new. And total denied 3, or 4 total, but 3 were new. So something about that doesn't add up. Oh, never mind, they do. If you look at the page immediately behind that, this is the report that Becky puts together for us that allows you to see the case number there on the far left, and then kind of in the middle where it says assistance type, it shows you the type of assistance they've requested, housing, utility, what kind of utility, and then it shows the requested amount and the approved amount. And again, this is just meant to give the board greater visibility on how the township money is being spent in real time for township assistance. For food pantry for the month, So flipping back to that first page, we had a total of 27 visits from 25 different households, represented 79 people. The total number of new households were 9, and that was 33 new people. Of those 9 new households, 6 of them were non-residents. So of those 33 new people, 24 were non-residents, which alternatively means 3 of those 9 new households were our residents, and 9 of those new individuals were our residents. We received almost 2,600 pounds of food a month. We donated just over 1,100 pounds of food, and we received $452 in terms of monetary donations. In May, so this would have been a report from the June 22nd meeting that we had it. So this would be year-to-date through May. Numbers didn't change a whole lot. Total number of initial applications stayed at 19, so no new ones in the month of May. Total number of continuing applications, so again, folks who have come back at least for like a second, sometimes it will be a third or even a fourth, depending on the time of year. But folks who have come in for more than one assistance request so far this year, total of 6, 2 of those were new that month. The total number approved outright that month was 0, so it stayed at 2. The total number partially approved that month was 19 total, 2 new. Those 2 continuing applications each received a partial approval, is kind of what you can gauge there. There were no denials in the month of May. If you again turn the page there, you can see those 2 continuing assistance ones. And when you look at it, what you'll realize is there are a couple of things. Reasons that these were partial approvals, if you look at that very first line, it says phone as the assistance type. We have a couple of residents where maybe there's an older child that doesn't live here, but is still on the parent's plan. We won't cover them. We just cover the folks that are in the domicile here within the township. Occasionally also, there are like equipment fees, surcharges, and other taxes on these bills that we can't cover. So I can't tell you specifically which one of those is the issue with this specific example, but it is one of those. It's either an adult child or an equipment charge. And then if you look at the bottom of that one, the last item says utility water. We didn't pay about $15 of it. Anytime, and I'm sure everybody in this room might be familiar, but there are those non-utility related surcharges that you can opt into, and it's usually like a third party that NIPSCO will send you, and they'll help you with like line maintenance or whatever, right? Well, we can't pay for anything that's a non-utility related charge, and so that is what the difference there was. Is there was 2 months worth of that, so that's why you see the $15. For the food pantry for that month, so for the month of May 2026, we had 37 visits from 30 different households. So that tells you at least 7 households came twice. Represents 84 individuals. Total number of new households were 8. Total number of new individuals was 23. Of those new households, 4 of them were non-resident, which means the other 4 were residents. Of those 23 new individuals, 11 of them were non-residents, which means that 12 of them were residents. We received just shy of 2,000 pounds of food that month. We donated just over 1,400 pounds of food that month, and we received $200 in monetary donations. Lastly, for township assistance, June, so this is what would have been prepared for you at the end of July here, so this is us catching up. But through year to date through June, total number of new applications is 22, so we had 3 new applications in the month of June. Total number of continuing applications year to date through June was 8. So again, 2 new ones that month. Of all of those, total approved completely, still 4, was 4. Okay. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with that number. Might need to be. Oh, no, I'm just an idiot reading the wrong line. It's 8. And 2 of them were new. Total of, yeah, no, hold on. I'm right.
No, that adds up.
Oh, I see what I did. Yeah, we're good. Total approved is 4, so there were 2 new ones that were outright approved. Total partially approved went up to 21, so there was 2 new of those. And then total denials, that went to 5, so there was 1 new one. Let's take a look at the last page of this packet real fast and see if I can tell you. So some of these folks had, like, so for instance, the very first one on there, which was an initial, the 2026-15 is the case number there on the far left. You see utility gas, they requested over $2,500 worth of assistance. We provided $2,000 worth of assistance. But reasonably, given the amount of money we had on hand at the time, and in order to ensure that everybody still has a little bit of skin in the game, we came to the agreement with the resident that we would pay the last portion, but that they would need to pay that additional. The additional 500 also covers not only their reconnection fee, because they were shut off at the time they brought this to us, but their security deposit had been taken, and so they had to pay a new security deposit on it as well. So this covered that, because as I think everybody in here knows, the township can't cover security deposits anyway. The next one is the outright denial that we just talked about that took us to 5. So this was a situation where there was a family that was brand new to the township, had literally lived here less than 60 days, and they had requested wrong situation. This is so another new family, just over 90 days. They were renting a house from a landlord that was temporarily living out of country. And we had offered to help pay. They came to us 3 months back. We had offered to help pay what we could, because we can't pay we can't meet their rent. It's more than what we can pay due to the township assistance guidelines. But we're going to pay the equivalent of 60 days worth of rent at the next month we could, help them stay there through the rest of that month, because the individual had lost his job. But in the back and forth between the renter and the landlord determined he wanted to pursue the eviction process. And at that point, if it wasn't going to allow them to stay there even through the end of that month, then there was no point in us paying it, because state law would look at that as debt servicing, debt retirement, paying for township assistance and services. So although I regretted having to do it, we ended up having to deny it, because it wouldn't have allowed those individuals to stay in that house any longer anyway. For the food pantry for the month of June, total number of visits was 28. Total number of households was 22, so 6 of those households came twice. Total number of individuals is 78. Total number of new households was 7. Total number of new individuals was 31. 5 of those new households were non-residents, so only 2 of them were residents. And of the non-resident individuals, out of those 31, 21 of them were. So 10 of those folks were our folks. Total pounds of food received in the month of June was about 2,400 pounds. Total pounds of food donated was just about 1,100. And we did not receive any monetary donations in the month of June. Any questions on township assistance or food pantry? Becky, anything you want to add other than I clearly can't read your graphs?
Well, I do want to say, I just heard that allegedly BP is supposed to be in discussion, and maybe by October they want to settle, but the union is still helping those people, because we haven't had anyone return.
Right, and I think they're unemployment eligible now, which changes things for us too. Because when this started, they weren't, as you know. So the good news is there's help out there now for these folks, not just through us. Obviously, we don't like this situation. You know, we want all sides to come to an agreement and help folks get back to work, because at the end of the day, it's American families that are getting hurt through this. I don't care about the rest of the factors there. One thing to consider, not saying we should do it today, but on this note, many of the other units around us, cities, towns, the county commissioners, in fact, have all voted on a non-binding resolution stating in some fashion their opposition to the lockout, and in some instances calling BP out for improper actions, and demanding that they come back to the negotiating table. The township board can do that. I would be open to a discussion of that. I think there's some merit there. We can use some of our own numbers. Not saying we should do it today. I definitely think we should do a vote like that when we have all three members available, but something to think about in the future. And if it is something that the board decides they want to talk about at the next meeting or at the end of the month, so I can get it on the agenda and draft something. But okay, next would be building maintenance. We only had one issue in the intervening period here that we haven't already talked about. So middle of last month, of course, Ellen was impacted. It was the hottest day of the summer so far. The air conditioning unit stopped working on the town side. Go figure, right? So I was in fact not here that day. I was out of office. Cheryl came over and talked to Becky and Barb, explained the situation. We called through several different providers trying to see if we could get out here because, again, hottest day of the summer. We're not the only ones going through this, especially when the AC units are cranked up and they're being taxed like that. Luckily, Four Seasons Heating and Air, who we have used before for various projects, came through for us that day. They were able to fix the unit, and we provided payment on site per their requirement. And Becky just helped us do that through the Township credit/debit card. But this is just for your edification. There's no action necessary. Any questions about that? Ladies, do you remember what the actual fix was? They had to replace the turbo capacitor. Yeah. Okay. We do know, since we're on that topic, because we had Leonard, who Pioneer Heating and Cooling, which is the individual, the company we use more predominantly in the building. He had indicated to us earlier this year that the AC unit and the furnace on that side of the building in particular are both going to need to be replaced soon. My hope is that this fix just gets us through the rest of the season so that then we can replace those. I'm hoping we can do one at the end of this year, one at the beginning of next to kind of spread it out a little bit over the budgets. But that is the goal. So just know that that's coming. I also frankly like to do those bigger purchases in the second half of the year if possible, because we should have an idea of what kind of expenses we've incurred in the moment in the first 6 months. So we're kind of getting to that point to where I feel a little bit more comfortable spending money anyway.
He also said, I don't know if you're interested.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't even tell me what he was going to fix before he just.
Yeah,
Was not good communication.
no, we had that at the same time, but they were the ones who could get out here that day.
Right,
So
okay.
we didn't
Then
want people.
hopefully we'll be just using underneath for that.
Right, or even the same one we used for the upstairs, because it wasn't them either for that. Oh, Kevin, who was that upstairs? Your guys' AC unit.
I can picture it.
I know. Same name as the generator.
Generator.
No, that's ours. I'm talking their generator. There's the K, doesn't it?
No. Gatlin.
Yeah. Don't know why I came.
Yep.
But you're right, Gatlin. So we have options, I guess is where I'm
And I
going.
had called them also, but
Yeah.
a lot of the people that I called, I'm 2 weeks out. It was 90 degrees, and then they were all just slammed with business, which is a good problem to have, but it wasn't good for the town.
Right.
I couldn't see anybody out
Told
there.
him, that he should have really told me before. He said, you want me to take it out?
Yeah, that was a great response. Right. Good to know. Well, it got us through the moment. We can, hopefully we'll be better prepared. All right, the next is the financial reports. What I did, or what Barb did rather for us, was, since we haven't had a meeting since we went over everything through March, because we had that April meeting on the first day of May. What I did is I gave us everything from April, May, and June, so from 4/1/26 to 6/30/2026 for the disbursement, the receipt, and the cash balance reports. I'm not, unless you have questions, going to walk you through each one of these. Important things that you will see on here. You'll see, and we made lots of different payments. We made a couple payments to the landscaping because they bulk it. They'll do a month or two of service and then send us an invoice. You'll see we did pay quarterly for the Lakes of the Four Seasons Fire Department. We paid out the stuff for Stryker as well. You can see there's the yeah, of course, for everybody. Times. Barb, do you see anything else in here that really sticks out to you? Either. So if you have any questions on the disbursements, but I kind of touched on the bigger ones. Again, the biggest ones being quarterly payment to the fire department, the payment for the different machinery and equipment that we agreed to through past resolutions. And then really the rest of this was just general operating business. All right. If there are no questions on that, the next report are the receipts. So again, this would look pretty regular. We're in the middle of the rental season for the community center, so there's a lot of money going both in and out for that. Of course, we take the rental, and at the end we generally refund the security deposit as long as there's nothing wrong. So we've got all that. You'll see several rent payments from the town. You'll see the spring cleanup donation that we made. Some other donations like from Christ Presbyterian Church, who regularly donate to our food pantry, and for which we're very grateful. You'll see also there where it says Lake County, you'll see the tax distributions that we took in as well. And how they're broken down. During that time period, we took in $558,558, which I thought was funny. It's the exact same number twice. But Barbara, anything you want to add on the receipts? It's all pretty regular business. Okay, and then last but not least in the financial reports is the month-end balance sheet. So again, this one goes from 4/1/26 to 6/30/26 because it shows you the full gap for the time period where we haven't met. And so salient details, we started with $1.4 million in the bank. We end with $1.6 million in the bank. And again, that includes not only the tax distribution, but then paying out like the quarterly and a bunch of that. So those are some big checks, as Kevin knows. Real quick, I'll do the balances, but the rainy day fund is $41,606. Township General is $294,119. Donations is $39,227. Township Assistance is $32,075. Firefighting and EMS is $658,268. Human Fire is $395,168. Parks and Rec has $41,965. Lloyd has $149,065, and then of course we got the payroll deduction. All right. Any questions for me on any of the financial reports? All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Barb, for your help today. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Becky, as well, for putting together the reports for that section. That brings us through the trustee update, and it brings us to our friends at the fire force. Chief, would you mind coming up to the podium for this portion?
You guys should have the run reports, I guess for a little while now, April, May, and June.
Yep, and I put the Q1 on top.
Okay. So the Q1 goes through, obviously, the first quarter, January through the end of March. there was a total of 391 calls for those first 3 months. And looks like total just for the township was just under 70 for the first quarter, with obviously still 80% of those accounting for mainly medical calls for that first quarter. April, there was a total of 137 calls, which 30. In May, we had a total of 150, 37 being in the township. And June, 157, which 30 of those were in the township. I don't have the totals done for July yet. I tried to run that report today and there was some skewed up. So I'm waiting for that to update. I think I fixed it today, but it takes it 12 to 24 hours to update on the report. But we did have, we were up over last month a little bit more than normal with 164 total calls. I'll have a final number for you at next month's, or well, at the end of this month.
164.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were up a little bit more average. Let's see. Move around
Hold
a
on, so
little
on the
bit.
sheet, on this group, that's before I let you go. Say it again, but what were you gonna say?
Well, I just didn't say I didn't get May or June.
You didn't get May or June?
No.
Sounds behind this? You just have a ton of papers.
No, I got all these, but I don't have these of May or June.
Okay, if you take my, because I. there's no-
Here, we'll trade because I'll just use them for the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless you can see it, I can see it.
I have June. I don't know if May's there.
Where did I miss
Yeah,
it?
it's here.
All right,
It's up here.
okay.
That's okay.
Sorry,
No
Cody.
worries.
I was looking for
because
one.
One was messed up. I was afraid it was
Thank
all gonna be messed up. We're good. So interestingly enough, just off what you said, January was the busiest in the first quarter. July would be the busiest in the second quarter. July makes sense because people like fireworks.
July, yeah.
I was just, is there any rhyme and reason to the up or down otherwise, or is it just how the stuff goes? Okay, and then the second thing is my impression based off of all of these numbers is that we might, and obviously we have 5 months to prove me wrong. Well, 4. But it looks like we could potentially end this year where like West Porter has more calls than we do, right? And is it kind of looking that way now? Pretty much for quarter 1 for sure, but even in these later months, it seems like it's kind of trending that way. I just think that's noticeable because we hear oftentimes that they consume a decent amount of resources and don't like what they pay. So it'll just be something interesting for us to keep note of because as we know, all these things change all the time. And then I really like, I know they're kind of, there's a lot on it, so your eyes go everywhere. But I do like these. I know this is updated.
I was just gonna say, I like the way you did this.
I think it's very interesting that in Q1, so much of it was like medical calls for us. Obviously I know 80% of your calls are usually medical calls anyway. But it just seems like that proportion, I guess it's not though, it's still about 80%. I don't know, that proportion just seemed high to me on this one, so I was commenting on. But anyway, I think they're interesting. There's a lot there.
There is.
So, all right, I'll shut up then. Back to you.
Well, and it could be broken down a little bit more simple if you took outside and inside the gates and put it into just one.
Yeah.
But as you know, the bulk of the population is within the gates compared to outside. So that's why we try to separate it to see if it actually changes.
Yeah.
But it's pretty normal to have inside being more all the time, which is where the population sits. In June, we had 3 people They graduated from the fire academy. Right now, we don't have anyone enrolled in this current academy that started in July. We had a few potential, but they had just joined, so they're kind of waiting until the next class to kind of stick around us for a little while until they just jump right into a class. Because the unfortunate part is if they join, say, the first week, and then they go the second week to academy, we literally don't see them for 6 months because their training nights are the same nights as ours. So they're pretty much gone the entire time. So they don't actually get to train or really learn anything internally other than just going to the academy, which is good, but then also a little bit bad too. So we're trying to not send people immediately and keep them around and stagger who goes when. We did have the golf outing now almost a month ago already. Can't believe it's been that long. That was overall, I think, well received. It was a good day. The weather held up. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, and it actually didn't rain. So it worked pretty well. Next year, we have tentatively scheduled for the 9th, same thing, Friday after the 4th. We have to confirm that date yet, but tentatively, that's what we have scheduled. If you guys like the colorful report, that's what I'm going to try to keep going with. We can always change it and break it down to be more simple or combine the two districts if we need to try to make it a little bit easier to read. We did pretty good.
Did you do well?
I don't have the number yet. Supposed to know that tomorrow. But
Based on the participants and.
we were right at the max this year of 144.
Good.
Last year we had like 160 something, 170, where we had to do 2 groups, a small group in the morning and then the full group in the afternoon. And they politely asked that we not do that anymore because that was a lot. It worked, but it was too much for one day. So this year went a lot better. And I think the feedback that we got this year was good because it moved at a steady pace.
It ran smooth this year.
Yeah. So hopefully we're going to stay on track for that. Currently we have 2 out of the 3 ambulances in service. Last week, one of them started making noise from the engine compartment, which I was very concerned about, considering it doesn't even have 60,000 miles on it yet. But it ended up having a failure internally in the transmission. So it's currently pulled out of it at the moment and getting rebuilt. Hopefully it'll be back, I hope this week.
Under warranty?
No, it's out by time.
It's too old.
Yeah. Because we took delivery of that in 2020. So it's out by time, unfortunately. But hopefully that'll be back this week. The pumper tanker, we don't have enough time to talk about that in one meeting because I'd keep you here for quite a while.
I think
But
that's the chief's polite way of saying we're gonna have to figure something out.
yeah, it's been out of service more this year than it's been in. And we've invested way too much money into it already again this year.
And the wait is what?
Still 3 years.
Yeah, 36 months. So
Yeah,
we're gonna have to do one of the things we don't like to do, which is we're gonna have to make folks, potentially not ourselves, beholden to pay for something that we won't be here to pay for. Because again, it's 3 years out. We might be, we might not. You just don't know how things turn. But my point is I know we've attempted not to do this for various reasons. We don't want to take out debt. We don't want to do this, but if our other partnering entities aren't willing to partner with us on this solution, somebody has to step up and lead. And while we may not like it, this might be our moment. So the chief's point, I think the salient detail here is it's down again. They'll of course let us know when it comes back. But this is a much bigger issue and much longer discussion than we really can do justice to this evening.
Well, don't you get into where you're throwing good money after bad? And
Yes.
there's-
We're past that point.
Past that. We've been doing that.
Yeah,
We're basically at the duct tape point of fixing it.
I get that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything else, I get it.
yeah, it's,
Not to make light of a serious situation.
I mean, this fix I hope is under warranty because it has to do with the motor. They found it Saturday just leaking coolant all over the floor. So they picked it up today and it's sitting there now. So I'm hoping this is gonna be a simple warranty fix, but either way, we don't have it. So we're back to that again. The issues at the beginning of the year was once they finally got the motor and the trans put in it, we got it back for about a week and figured out the air leaks still existed and had only gotten worse. So it went in and in order to fix that problem, it created another problem because long story short, that has the unique rear steer. Well, it was manufactured in 96, 97. All the people who created that are almost not in existence anymore. So in order to fix it, they had to hunt people down that had the knowledge in order to replace that part and then calibrate it to where when you want to go straight, you're not going sideways. And then when you want to go in reverse, you're not going sideways. So it was the main part that controls that whole system because it's air actuated. That was the biggest source of the leak. A lot of the other leaks they found, it was fittings, hose. They were able to fix that in the first few weeks. But that was the major part that kept it gone for 2 or 3 months at the beginning of the year. So that part has been good so far. But it's just, it seems to, there's not 1 month that goes by where it's something else.
I smile again, not to make light of a bad situation, but I had the sudden thought that our pumper tanker is older than my middle brother. And I just, it's the main unit we rely on in our responses.
Yeah, it is.
Again, I have been accused many times of being alarmist and what have you, but I do not think it is out of bounds to say that the end result of this, the end result of doing nothing is that somebody, whether it's a random citizen or one of the men and women of the fire force gets hurt, or potentially worse, in the response or the inability to respond to a call in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
And I laughed because anybody who knows anything about it is dead.
Yeah. The only other thing that I had was, thank you for making the engine payment last year, or last month, I should say, a few weeks ago. I sent Cody an email that I think is in your packet. We went to the West Porter meeting. I think their meeting was July 13th, their normally scheduled meeting. They had inquired a month or two prior on, I'll say, asking us for a payoff amount for that loan. It came closer to their meeting. They requested it again as a specific date payoff, which I believe was the end of July is what they wanted. I could be wrong, somewhere around their meeting date. We got them that letter from Centir, sent it to them, and again reiterated, when they originally inquired, we reiterated the fact that this was a longer term partnership with the township, along with the fire department holding the loan, that if anything was going to be done with it, that we'd like to schedule a meeting. We'd like to have a more involved discussion with you.
In fact, Tom and I
Involved?
attended the one last year. Remember when we talked about different payoff options?
Yeah.
And what did we say? We were not opposed to it, but we wanted to plan for it. We didn't
Correct.
want just a knee-jerk reaction that would throw off the nice little ambiance we had going on here in terms of paying it off, in terms of the agreement between the three entities. But anyway, back to this.
So we reminded them of that. It's been discussed over the last few years. So I just figured they just wanted it. I was told they wanted it for their records. I did not get a copy of their agenda. We sat through the meeting. One of the bullet points was a recommendation on paying off their debt of part of the loan. They all voted yes and paid off the payment for this year along with the $81,230.88 in additional payment at the same time, the day after their meeting on 7/14. So they paid off their portion of the balance of what was owed. I asked Centir to get me an update now that their payments were in, your payment is in, to find out what the ending balance is, along with then what is going to be due next year. Because as we both know, the payment was more than $34,000 a year. And in order to change that, we'd have to refinance that unless they redo their math and then something changes where it's a different minimum payment that's going to be due. So I inquired about that last week. I don't have an answer yet tonight. So
we will do our best to have that for you at the meeting at the end of our regular August meeting.
Yeah.
24th.
hopefully I'll have it by then.
But unfortunately, that's not even where the story ends, folks. So to Kevin's point, not only did they pay off what the current payoff, half of what the current payoff amount would be for right now, obviously that doesn't take into effect the fact that it's what, $39.80 of accrued interest daily every year. The fact that there was the whole repayment schedule, and the fact that just because they paid off half now doesn't mean that's actually half of the ultimate amount that gets paid off in the end, right? And so what they've effectively done is they've jumped ahead on something that we could have partnered with them on, because we just went over the cash balances. We could have met them, paid it off the same day, and just everybody been done if that's really what we wanted to do. That's not the opportunity that was afforded to us. They didn't tell us this was their plan, even though Tom and I sat down with two of their members last year and agreed that we were fine doing this as long as it was planned for, because our exact comment to them was that we had the money, but we didn't want to have to do an additional budget appropriation. We would rather plan for it and, do it in a logical sense. Instead, they didn't do that. They did as Kevin described, but then they took it a step further. Chief?
Yeah.
So it's the last part of that packet. So in your packet, just so you know, you've got the email Kevin sent me with basically the loan notes. That's the second page. Third page is a copy of our check. Thank you again, Barb, for it shows that we paid it and when we paid it. But the last two pages are kind of where we are now. And the very top of that page is Kevin forwarding me an email he received from Paul Teal at Centir. But the bulk of what we're talking about now is that email from Centir. So, Chief, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, you have the copy of the email, but on the 14th, when that payment was made by the district, I got an email from Paul, which is their Vice President of Commercial Banking, who that's our contact there. He emailed us and said, good morning. Craig from the Fire Protection District came into the Winfield branch to deposit 2 checks to go towards your loan with that number. When he was there, he asked the branch personnel how WPTFPD, put that in quotes, could be added to the collateral for that note as second lien holder, since, and then he put this part in quotes, they have a hand in paying for the fire truck, end quote. Does not allow for any additional liens for any of our loans and the associated collateral. And then he asked us to reach out to Craig and let him know what the bank's position is.
So think about that. what they did was, without telling anybody, they went and paid their portion of it when they knew there was no plan in place for making sure it was fine in the future year, because we'd all talked about it. And then when they did it, they're like, oh, wait, we'd like to be able to put a lien against this too, should, they come up unable to pay, because of course they're gonna they're gonna undercut them by doing what they did. So this, in my opinion, is one of the best examples of the West Porter Fire Protection District trustees acting completely out of bounds. Because in every opportunity when they could have collaborated with us, when they could have worked together, they chose in on top of just deciding to go their own route, which again, they're a unit of government technically, so they technically have the ability to make that decision for themselves. In my opinion, they went a step farther and they tried to kind of stick a knife in the wound. It's a wound they created. So I find this to be very telling about where the mindset of the leadership of the West Porter Fire Protection District is. I have no problem saying it to a public meeting now. I would have no problem saying this to their board of trustees, but this isn't good government. This isn't how people work together. This is the opposite of that. And I find it very frustrating and very disheartening, frankly. And I know the chief does, but I wanted to make sure the board was aware, because again, this does impact us. Unfortunately for the fire district, we are also only beholden for so much money over so many years. Now, we're not going to act in the same manner as the West Porter Board of Trustees did. But what I do think this does, as we were talking earlier in this meeting about our budget process, I'd like to see what those numbers are for paying off next year instead, and just pay it off in July.
Yeah.
And then including that as part of the budget, because I think at this point it's messy. I don't want it to get any messier. I know there will still be a portion of it that technically you guys will have to cover anyway. So I was doing the math, and it's like $14,000 in interest annually anyway. And so obviously I can't speak out of turn here. But I realize that there's going to, even after we pay the portion we're beholden to, I know there will be a remaining amount. And so I say that to say that the board, we may need to consider a new resolution at that time to pay or help pay towards that overage. But I also know the fire forces themselves are kind of working on a way to resolve that too, in the sense of year new contracts. So
Yeah.
and not going to jump ahead of anybody or put words in anybody's mouth, just trying to explain the full kind of realm of what's going on.
Is their payment of 81,000, you said 81,000? Is that already deducted from the current principal
No,
balance?
None of that. No, that was before.
No.
That was before anybody made a payment.
Yep.
That was like the loan note.
So they paid 81,000 plus the
34.
34?
Yeah.
So then the balance currently is under
All of a
100,000.
sudden.
No, because 14,000 of that 34 goes to interest.
Goes to,
Interest.
oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So
Okay, so 20,000, so
Like 115.
101,000 went towards the principal balance then.
Yeah, I did the math. It's about 115,000 left.
Okay.
And that's before you add the new interest that will accrue by next year, of course.
Right, but that also doesn't include the 34,000 that we just paid, which was only 20,000 would go towards the
Right.
principal.
Yeah, and that's what I emailed her about last week, because I asked after they did this, how does this affect the overall loan? And then what ends up being our minimum payment? Because then if obviously it's more than 34,000 and it continues for the next X amount of years, now we have to budget that out of our budget to make up the difference. Because I don't think that it's right to come to you and say, hey, this was the original agreement up to 10 years. Now this has gotten paid. Now we need more from you. So I just wanted to at least let you guys know that happened, at least as of the 14th. But I don't have an answer on what the balance is or what next year will be yet.
I was gonna say, if we had the money, wouldn't it be better than to just this year?
We might, the only thing is this, the whole additional budget appropriation process again, and more, because it'll cost us money to notice. I mean, you're right, it'll still cost us more money to wait and pay for it next year, but it's just, if we're, right, but if we're already pushing back our budget, I mean, it'd just be a lot at once, so. All something the board can decide, and to your point, you are right, it would technically be cheaper. But things we can talk about at the meeting at the end of this month too. As we get back on schedule. Anything else, chief?
I am looking to see when the contact letter was actually done. I'm trying to find it through
You're good.
the numerous ones that she sent, or that they asked for.
The most recent one, Kevin?
Yeah.
Well, Kevin checks for that. I'm just gonna do the announcements real fast. The next event, Movie in the Park, Friday, August 7th, here at Randolph Street Park, starts at dusk. It's the Minecraft the movie. Our next meeting will be the August regular meeting, Monday, August 24th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. here. And then last, the Winfield Fall Harvest Festival, that's Saturday, September 19th, 2026. And that's the last item in your packet. It's got the list, and then it just shows that we were approved. We're gonna be giving out free popcorn this year, so something fun.
Okay.
Good night,
That's all I have
everybody.
there. I'm sorry. Chief,
Bye,
that's
Sherry.
you.
Yeah, the letter that was done was June 24th, and it was through the payoff reference to July 15th.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. As Sherry's walking away, we lose our quorum, so we will have to conclude this meeting at this point, Mr. Board Chair.
And Kevin, the car that was submerged, you guys did a great job on that,
It was
from
quick.
what I read, yeah.
Where was that?
And,
Season's place.
Yeah, it's even special.
There's a retention pond.
Yeah.
Right across from Strike, full go straight across the street.
All right. All right. Well, again, thank you, folks. We no longer have a quorum, so we will conclude tonight's meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday, August 24th. Same time, same place. Thank you all again for coming. We appreciate it.